Wow, that cut that's a jump off a cliff. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to After Dark, Big D After Dark. I am the host here, Nathan Hill at Nathan J Hill. You can follow me there on Twitter. And next to me is Jose Carmona. You can follow him at El Chico Carmona on Twitter. We are normally joined by our third compatriot, Ben Lyon, but he had to bow out tonight. Call in sick, and that's fine. That's good. Good for him. That's fine. We'll handle it from here tonight because we have a lot to talk about. This may have been one of the best weeks in FC Dallas history, but we'll get back to that. Okay, so if you're
non-title winning,
yeah, okay, point taken. But anyway, we're just glad. We hope you folks join us. If not, you'll catch up on the stream here, as it's always saved to our YouTube channel, our Big D Soccer YouTube channel. But anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday evening. We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to have some fun as we talk about first 6 points. 6 points. Go back in time. FC Dallas couldn't play the MLS Back tournament in Orlando because of positive tests for COVID-19, including, I think, Weston was one of those players that tested positive, for example. The team had to come back home, sort of go through the quarantine process again, start to getting back to practice, so they come back and they play 2 games against Nashville, and one is a draw at home, one is a loss at home. And it seemed like a pretty terrible start for this team. Come back to the present. This team has 3 wins in a row, and they're against good teams. The FC Dallas is beginning to look like something. Wow. I mean, just here we are, climbing up to something like 4th place in the West.
I think, third, actually.
Or third.
Third, but second if you go by points per game.
Some fans were panicking after those first few games, and I know they weren't a great start, but it seems like every game this team has continued to sort of figure things out, continued to sort of click, and of course the emergence of and the addition of Ricarte has been an incredible gift. So let's just really quick. So win at home against it's been so long.
Colorado.
Against Colorado. I mean, that game was rescheduled, and then they go back to Kansas City, and they beat Kansas City in their own house. So delicious. 3-2.
It was
4-1 against Colorado at home, and 3-2, and that 4-1 game was featured a hat trick by Santiago Mosquera. And really, Jose called that. Jose, you called that, right?
I did. I kept telling people that Mosquera is one of these guys that needs playing time. I mean, the guy he's one of those guys that plays off of confidence. So if he's not playing, his confidence is slow. But give that guy playing time, and he begins to perform. He's never going to be this guy that we always wanted to be. Everyone was saying he's reminding everybody of Lama, and I think that's a comparison that could work, because he was amazing at home against Colorado, and then he disappeared on the road against Kansas City, and that's what Lama was actually, famous for. He at home he was a killer, and on the road he just totally disappeared. So when you get those Lama vibes from Mosquera, I think that's exactly what's going on. Is he's a guy who's at home, who plays with more confidence at home.
And you made the point too. I mean, he plays better with rhythm. He made getting him more minutes gives him a chance. And part of it has been, the challenge has been that he's had injuries, and it's just not being able to ever put it all together for this team.
Yeah. Every time he gets going, he just, it's like just when he's starting to get into form, and we're like, oh man, he's starting to play good, and then he gets injured, and it's all reset back to coming off the bench and not looking like much, because we just don't know I had heard that he was hurt, and that's why he hadn't been playing. And we can't see the practices or anything, so we can't tell. But it's kind of come out since that, yeah, he was actually hurt, and he's only recently gotten healthy. So now it's just start watching the clock and see how long before he gets hurt again, because that's his history. That's what it's always been here in CD.
Well, and the other big news out of both of these matches again is that Hara is legit.
Yes,
Franco Hara.
actually, Hara is living up to, he's doing what he was brought in to do. He's people are like, well, he's not doing much. The man just has to score goals, and that's what he was brought in to do, and that's what he's doing. I don't really care if you don't think he's fast or what. But by the way, considering he's not really the fastest player, he can play on the wing, and that's one thing we saw against Colorado that was actually pretty impressive, is they actually rotated, all three of your Mosquera and Barrios and Hara all rotated spots throughout the game. So Hara would suddenly be out on the wing, and Mosquera would be in the center. Barrios, you know what I mean? And it was interesting, But like I said, with Hara, sure, he's not putting up these big, massive numbers, but he's getting it. He's getting it. He's scoring. That's all you want from that guy. Keeps everybody honest. It keeps the defenses from basically, they have to watch him at all times. They can't just cheat. And it's great. Oh, by the way, one more thing about that Mosquera hat trick. By the way, Mosquera still has the same tendencies that drift towards the center, and he makes that several times. He seems to be making the same runs that Hara is making, so he's not going to the far post like he should be. But what's interesting is in that game, you could see that his teammates are getting the hang of his habits and are getting the ball to him where he's going to be. So Barrios wasn't passing to the far post. He was passing, to the second trailer or third trailer, which was usually Mosquera. So, I mean, you're saying it. So it's familiarity with each other. You're seeing the team start to click because the players have been playing together, and they're starting to get an idea of what Hara likes to do. You get to see what Mosquera likes to do,
right,
and so on and so forth. And that makes everybody more. You can see the team doesn't look like a perfect. It's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They play long stretches of good ball, and then they play long stretches where you're like, my God, what are they doing? But that's because the team you can tell they're still building. They're still getting better and better and better. We haven't seen the full strength squad yet, fully informed. That's still coming.
Well, before we went live, Jose, you asked me what I was most excited about from like these 6 points this week for this team, and I said it's just the depth. I mean that they won against Kansas City at Kansas City without Ricarte.
With the rotated squad.
With Nelson starting at left back. Just
Carter didn't play.
With Tessman, an 18-year-old, played pretty solid game. Yeah,
Tessman is starting to look like he did. Those first two games where we were blown away by him, and he's starting to show that it's not a fluke.
Yeah.
So he's essentially he looks to have leapfrogged Cirillo and Cervenia to a point. I mean, I'm not saying that there's much separating him and Cervenia, but considering that Cervenia has been on the team longer, it's pretty impressive that Tessman is basically, I won't say he's surpassed Cervenia, but he's on par with him at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's a great problem to have basically, you're going to have, once the team is healthy, you're going to have Santos, Acosta, and Ricarte as your starting midfield, and you're going to have Tessman and Cervenia as your kids that are either going to back them up or are going to start when those players need to rest. I mean, that's...
Yeah, and push each other.
Yeah.
And push each other to so who's the best that week in practice? Who's doing the work? And I mean, the fact...
Imagine if Pamikal hadn't gotten injured. Our depth at midfield would be 6 deep. Including the starters. So that's a great problem to have.
Well, against Colorado, Santiago was the story. I mean, just a great performance and kind of a relief. But a sign too, I think that Coach Lucci was seeing things in him to continue to give him minutes and opportunity. And then I thought, Coach Lucci is growing too as a coach, and we see that now. Early on, we were questioning a lot, like, oh man, this 5-3-2 or whatever, like what's going on here. But I think he's really trying to get the best out of his players and tweaking. And against Sporting Kansas City, I think the first 50, 60 minutes was one of his best coaching jobs, getting a team prepared, dialed into a tough environment against a tough team that's never going to be a pushover, and being able to score, to make it a 2-0 game in that first 60 minutes or so. Now, then the final 30 minutes, I think he may be hamstrung by some of his options to sort of lock the game down, but it did feel like he went a little early to get this team locked down against Kansas City, who are they're just going to push. They're going to go for it at home. So, I understand the logic there, but it felt like we conceded a little too much possession. But on the other hand, a 3-2 win, it's hard to complain. And it erases that home loss that we were so concerned about earlier after the restart.
So on Lucci, you're seeing him grow as a coach as he goes. You're seeing him improve, and it's not instantaneous. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, but he's also realizing that, let's face it, it's still not 100% his team. There are still players on this squad that were brought in for Pareja's system, which is a completely different system. Mosquera is one such player. Mosquera doesn't fit into Lucci's system, and he's flat out said it that he felt more comfortable in Pareja's style than what Lucci's. So like when it took Cobra a while to figure out how he fit in Lucci, and Lucci for him to figure out how to best use him. That's what's going on with Mosquera, and that's what's going on with several players. And that's why you're seeing sometimes the team shift from Lucci ball, which we haven't really seen too much lately, into more of a mid block or low block, encounter type team, because those are some of the players that he's inherited. That's why Mosquera actually was effective, because Lucci abandoned his preferred playing style and went to more into a counter style, and that suited Mosquera way more than the normal style. So you're seeing that. Sometimes you don't catch it right away. You don't catch the sudden shift in tactics. You may suddenly realize, oh wait, what changed? Well, Lucci, sometimes you see him change 2 or 3 times in the game, which I appreciate. I think it's adjustments in the matches. We're starting to see he's making in-game adjustments that are delivering points.
And our friend Jason Poon on Big D Soccer really just highlighted this week the work of Matt Hedges and Redo Ziegler. We definitely have a very solid pairing at center back with Bressan, who's started to really look like he's at the very least he's great in game, lock down the result kind of material, and he had some heroics against Kansas City, but he's going to be contending for a starting spot if this is Reto's last season in that position. We don't know, but you have Brian Riddles and you have Ryan Hollingshead and John Nelson. The defense is shaping up really well too.
It is, and you want to see that. Let's face it. It's right now your 2 guys off defensively that are going to be your reserves are Bressan and Nelson. Really, if Hollingshead is starting over on the left side, Reynolds on the right, so Nelson is basically your guy that's going to come out and relieve one of those guys, and then you got Bressan's going to be your third center back, and I've been telling people Bressan is our new lockdown. When Lucci wants to basically shut it down and all right, let's hold on for the win, then that's when Bressan comes in. Then the tactics are going to be basically 3 on the back and defend and counter. That's I like to see that. It's nice to be able to have a third center back that can come in and do that.
Mm-hmm. We also saw some people getting healthy this week. Fafa Pico among them. It was good to see him. Acosta made the field against Kansas City, and then got sent off.
Yeah.
Not the thing that the team really needed from him. We sure could have used him on Wednesday if Santos is getting the night off already. It was the plan. We sure could have used his veteran presence.
Well, actually, both of them are going to get the day off. With
Yeah.
because Santos got a yellow, and he's got to miss the game due to accumulation.
Right.
So that, and then you got the red on. So yeah, those two guys are going to have to sit, and that's fine. Like I said, you start Ricarte, you start Cervenia, you start Tessman, and maybe instead of a single pivot, you're going to have two guys, and you have Ricarte up high. So who knows?
Yeah,
be interesting.
It will be interesting to see. We'll come back to that. But so in other words, 6 points. Just you can't ask for a better week point wise, as we said, for this team. But let's go to the next topic because I just want to talk more about Kansas City because beating Kansas City, beating Peter Vermes. Oh my gosh, there's nothing sweeter. There's nothing sweeter in Major League Soccer than that. And boy, he was a crybaby after the game. He had some choice quotes about the antics of the FC Dallas players. And let me tell you, we have seen Sporting Kansas City do that stuff. It's soccer. I mean, it maybe was over the top a little bit for FC, and I get that it can be annoying. I get it, especially if you're trying to push for a result. But FC Dallas knows it's hard to get a result there, so they're going to do anything they can.
But I mean, he was working those reps hard, and I mean, it must be paying off for him because there was that one stretch. It was like, I kid you not, it was like a 3-minute stretch, maybe 2-minute stretch, where Hara got a yellow, Barrios got a yellow, Acosta got a yellow, one of our coaches got a yellow, right? Was it Lucci that got the yellow?
Yeah, or the bench. I mean, they said the bench. I don't know who.
Yeah, exactly. So that was all suggesting. Just like boom, 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 and I was like, holy crap! And at that point, you knew that a red card was coming. I'm sorry, but when I'm watching that, I'm like, okay, this is just ridiculous. There's going to be a red card coming because just the way that was handled. And sure enough, it came down to Acosta getting, his second yellow, 90th minute or so. And then on top of that, then you got Santos, so within 3-minute span, Dallas lost 2 players for next week. so yeah, I mean, and that's from him getting after, just whining, being obnoxious, and at home it's effective, I mean, we hate it, but if he gets under the official skin, which I think he is, he's going to keep doing it, man. It's just, like I said, I think it worked, and I certainly was worried. Those were some pretty unnerving last 8 minutes or so. I think after once you hit the 7 minutes, and I was like, okay, blow the whistle already, and I was just getting even more irate than I was. I was like, when is this match going to stop?
What a game! I mean, it was a memorable game. There was some great. Johnny Russell was great for Sporting Kansas City, very active. But Ryan Hollingshead off the bench with the game winner. And it was off a really bad pass by Sporting Kansas City. So you can gripe all you want about those late game antics by FC Dallas, but SKC buried themselves. They put themselves in that hole.
Buried themselves. That's correct. And more importantly, this is a game that in the past FCD would have blown. We were like, Sporting had the momentum, and you're seeing that the team is just a dog. They're just scraping and fighting and clawing out there to just get the win, and you love to see it. I mean, that's what you need. If you want to be a real contender, you want to have a team that's going to find a way to, get that 3 points or hold on to the draw, and that's what you're seeing from Dallas. That's what they're doing. They're finding ways to pull these wins out, even when they don't look good. People are like, oh, they didn't, I mean,
Right.
people were complaining that they didn't look good against Colorado, who they beat 4-1. It was ridiculous. It was like, they look terrible. Did you see the scoreline? It
Right.
wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty, but I'll take an ugly win any day of the week. Any time.
Yeah.
3 points is 3 points.
If you said to me, would you rather win possession at the end of the game, have more possession than your opponent, or win 4-1? I'll take 4-1. Like, come on, this isn't a beauty contest. Sometimes you just take the win.
What? Yeah, would you take everybody looking so bad, and yet your team wins? Against the run of play, but wins by 3 goals. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I don't really care how they looked. Get that W.
Yeah. And NFC Dallas has needed them. So good thing. Now, one little nugget that kind of, I think, hangs in the air for this next week with 2 matches again for FC Dallas. Just a tough week. But it was great to see Jimmy Mara back in goal. Definitely more confident. You could definitely see. And Zobak was out with an injury. I mean, maybe Zobak would have started if maybe, we just don't know about those questions. But one of the things I noticed at the end, Mara did not take some of the final kicks, the goal kicks that Santos came back and kicked or something. So he may have re-aggravated something. It'll be interesting to see kind of his status.
Or maybe he might not have been 100%. He might have just been tender. But the difference is the passing out of the back with Mora. He's just better. He's better suited to Lucci's system. That's not really Sobek's strength. Sobek's just he's like the ultimate professional. The guy brings lunch pail guy comes in, does what he's asked to do, does it good, does it correct. He's not an athlete, but the guy does his homework, and you see he's a complete professional out there, and that's great. But Moore brings the same thing with a little bit more, and the difference being, of course, not just the actual game experience, but also his passing from out of the back. And yeah, I think his foot's still tender, and I think the team had to basically. That's probably Ziegler, the captain, coming up to him and saying, "Hey, we can't have you dropping,
right,
like last time.
Yeah,
let somebody else take those kicks, and that's smart. I mean, don't aggravate it. Save them, especially when you got a short game coming. You don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, It's endless enough things to talk about. So please check BigDSoccer.com. We're going to have a lot of topics over the next couple of days. Just recapping this week, my workhorse article. I mean, I know. I mean, it's just there's so many solid performances from this team, gutsy performances, and I just love that Matt Hedges, who's been this solid defender, MLS Defender of the Year level defender year after year, is figuring out these 2 or 3 line cutting passes that just really are special and create opportunities for this team. I mean, he's adding this passing vision. So it's just stuff like that. It's really exciting to see. If you're an FC Dallas fan, if you're on the fence about this season, get on board, y'all. I mean, it's looking great. It's looking like we're on the right trajectory.
It's starting to look like the team that we all thought we were getting this year before, the whole Nashville meltdown. And by the way, that meltdown is looking less and less horrible when you take into consideration that Nashville is looking like a playoff team now.
Yeah.
So
a very solid team, an organized team. Yeah.
Exactly. They're a smart team. They know what they want to do. They know their road to success, and they're doing it. And we got a taste of that against Dallas, but we were all like, "Oh, Dallas should hit 6 points from that." Well, it didn't happen. We all went into a panic. But it turns out that Nashville is actually a pretty decent team. They're looking really good right now, and it kind of softens the blow a little. It still hurts, but but they're not this horrible expansion team that we all thought they were.
Well, let's move on to our next topic, because this was also a big week, and really my topic little banner thing below doesn't quite do it justice, but 6 points, huge for FC Dallas, but also this week saw Weston McKennie debut in the same lineup of Cristiano Ronaldo at Juventus.
Oh yeah,
Johan Gomez at Porto.
Porto B.
Porto B. Starting there. Reggie Cannon with Boavista. And Chris Richards coming on as a substitute at Bayern Munich. This was an incredible week for FC Dallas Academy and FC Dallas and what the future holds. Basically, if you're a European team right now and you want to grow, you want to get players with upside, you gotta be checking out Frisco, right? You gotta be looking up FC Dallas and seeing who is available. When you see a kid like Brian Reynolds step in and grow within a few games and look just immense, like he really has something. I mean, you gotta be taking a look at this team and the other kids coming up in the academy, right?
When you're seeing basically the team lose a starter and having an academy player at that, and then have another academy player come in and the team doesn't miss a beat, that should get your attention. It's FC Dallas Academy is just a factory, man. They're just churning out players, and it's like a bottleneck really for Dallas. They've got so much talent coming up that they can't really sell these guys fast enough. And it's a good problem to have. And by the way, you can get them at far more affordable prices than if you got players from another top academy, a non-MLS academy. Those teams have reputations. You go to Ajax, they're going to want top money for their, academy players because they're proven producers. FC Dallas is that sneaky, hey, if you haven't noticed, they're one of the best academies, if not the best academies in North America. And, okay, maybe you're not getting a finished product, but you're getting a player that's got talent and room to grow. And if you get him young enough, they can come in and, look at McKennie's, his, how he basically skyrocketed up, from, what was it, Shockey, U19 to the senior team to, now Juventus in a really short amount of time. That's what's going on with Richards right now. U19, then they're Bayern B team, and now he's on the senior roster. That's trajectory Johan Gomez is following right now, by the way, too.
Well, I just keep having this image of Paxton calling up his buddy Weston, say, "Hey man, can you give me Ronaldo's number, man?" I just like the degrees of separation from these FC Dallas Academy, and of course we know FC Dallas has had a long celebrated academy that's seen one of the best, but we remember all those first wave of guys that came out, several years ago, Bradley Valadez, Ruben Luna, that that even sometimes cracked the senior team a little bit, but never quite put it together. And the way the guys out there that are shaping the team, the league now, like Kellen Acosta, Victor Ulloa,
I would say technically that's wrong, though. I mean, the academy's been around for what, 8 years, 10 years? I mean, it's basically still a new academy by world standards. It's it's still a very new academy, and I would say that it hasn't even reached its full potential because of the MLS, homegrown rights. Once that gets cleared, I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting to see which players come to through the academy,
Yeah.
And there's going to be some players that come to the academy with the full intention of not ever signing with an MLS team, saying, "Hey, I'm going to go to that academy, and the first chance I get, I'm going to Europe or whatnot." So
right.
It makes it interesting.
It is. It's going to be an interesting night. But what a week for FC Dallas as a whole, and their organization and their vision of where they want to be. So just kudos to them. It really came together this week. So let's jump ahead to our hype or hold series. Is a new part of our show where we pick a player and we're saying, hey, are we on the hype train for this guy, or are we going to hold off a little bit more? We're going to hold off and say, let's just wait and see. And none other than the starter at left back and we've featured already this season a few times, and his feature last season, maybe before picking up a knock, was John Nelson at left back. And there were some comments that sort of knocked him about his performance at Kansas City because, Johnny Russell, ran circles around him, but Johnny Russell's a solid player, is going to run circles around a lot of professional left backs in MLS. But John Nelson, with an assist, a dime to Franco Jara for the opening goal. I'm on board with this kid. This kid is impressive to me.
And I'm on board too because, people were knocking him on the whole Johnny Russell thing, but if I remember correctly, those goals came off of set pieces. They didn't come through the normal run of play. He didn't get beat in the open, anything like that. So, and honestly, his defense is far ahead of where his offense is. So, seeing him get involved, get the assist, that's great because that's what you want to see. You want to see him grow in the attacking third, and he's got time. He's still young. He's got room to grow, and it's great to see the assist to show that he's taking that step where he's not just sitting back, strictly playing defense, because the way Lucci likes to do things, you need that left back to be active in the attacking third, and not just sit back and play defense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm all for it, man. I think you'll see him rotating with. I'm not saying he's going to be an every week starter, but with all the games that we have, he's going to get many starts.
And he's growing, and so here was another a draft pick that is emerging as a really helpful piece. And there's all kinds of scenarios with this kid, whether where Hollingshead fits and how Nelson fits. It just gives your team a lot of flexibility, but you never know when you have a left back emerge in this league that, come this offseason, does an MLS team, they look around to rebuild that position, do they go, hey, what do you want for Nelson? So it becomes an asset. He's doing himself favors here, but I hope he sticks around and continues to grow,
Oh, yeah. And I do too. And it's the other thing is, it shows you another strength of Dallas. The Dallas has is that they draft. They're one of the better teams that using the draft to get the talent where they need it. Not a lot of teams do that. Some teams don't even bother trying drafting players, but Dallas goes out there, gets players that they can develop or put them in places to succeed through the draft. That's a great thing to complement your academy with.
All right, before we go on to our next opponents and sort of finish up the show, it was a topic I missed. I should have touched upon with you, Jose. But let's just talk about if there was a downside so far to this past week and to the past few weeks as FC Dallas has really gotten stronger every week, every match. It probably has to be just the trials and tribulations of North Texas SC, right? I mean, if we want to talk about it, yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about where are they in their... Do they still have a shot at making the playoffs?
So they do, by the way, but they're hanging by a thread. Basically, their two games they had coming up was the game against Tucson this past weekend, and then they played Greenville, and Greenville's the top team in the league right now. And I was looking at those, and I was thinking to myself that they needed to get at least 4 points out of that to remain in the race, okay? Because they're hanging by a thread. But here's the thing: is now, mind you, they got a point even though they were down to 10 men, so they actually outplayed Tucson down the stretch. And I never believed that Tucson's all that good, in all honesty, but that Cerrillo red card early really hurt. And then the team, that's how talented this team is, though. This team was with 10 players was able to come out and get a point. That just means they got to go to Greenville, and they have to leave there with 3 points. It's all pretty much the they can still make the playoffs, but they're going to need help, and they can't be hurting themselves like they did against Tucson. And people are like, "What's wrong with North Texas?" There's nothing wrong with North Texas. That roster was set up with the idea that they would be getting players loaned to them from FC Dallas. Burgess would be one of them. Minjoma. I mean, Robert Cirio, Reynolds. Well, not Reynolds, but Dante Seeley. And last year, when they won the league, USL League One, they were getting 5 players sent down regularly.
Including Kyle Zobek is another name. Yeah.
And sometimes either Zobek, even more. They get some of the help with the. So sometimes they'd have as many as 6 guys from the team. But this year they're not getting that, and that's what they had planned for. They had planned to receive players from the senior team. They're not getting any help, so they're having to go with their core roster that they signed. They only signed 15 players, and then they loaned 2 of them out, and that was Arturo and Evans. So they've had to basically recall both of them, and then they signed Bonilla at right back. Now he's actually an academy contract, so he still retains his eligibility to go back to college. But then the guy I was really excited about was Nicky Hernandez, who was supposed to be a senior at SMU. They signed him, and within days he was out there starting for them when they defeated Tucson. And then, of course, he started again against when they were down to 10 men, and he scored the game tire.
A heck of a goal too. Great goal.
And mind you, that's amazing. That's what I was telling people is once the COVID thing goes away, or at least we get some kind of semblance as far as sports is concerned, and next year rolls around, and North Texas can start getting people again from the team. And mind you, they're also hamstrung because they're not getting players from the academy like last year also on a regular. This team has way too many resources compared to other teams in that league not to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing that they reinforce, but because the season is so short, it works against them. That slow start.
Yeah.
Works against them.
Yeah, no, I think you're being really fair. I think you're being fair. It's a young team, and it's just tough. And sometimes the bounces in this game of soccer just don't go your way. And I think, but although Cirio deserves a little blame for that, he really got goaded into that red, and he
did.
But he's a young guy. He's going to learn some of these hard knocks and grow from these things. And that's what NTSC is for. Yeah.
You'd rather he learn them in North Texas than for FC Dallas.
Right.
So, and this is not like last year. He did the same thing. Last year he got loaned down, and there was one game where he was within 30 minutes he had a red card and the team was down to 10. So it's not the first time he's done it. But no, I'm not too worried about North Texas. Like I said, even if they don't make the playoffs, there's only 2 teams that are going to make the playoffs. So it's not really that bad. And once things go back to normal and they can start drawing from the academy and drawing from the senior team, they'll be just fine.
Well, let's shift to our next opponents, and then we will close out the show. So grateful for all of you joining us. And it's another busy week for FC Dallas, and because, keep in mind, Thiago Santos got a yellow card, but was already
accumulation.
Yeah, right. For accumulation is now going to be out for the Wednesday game, but was already probably planning to have a day off. And then with Acosta getting the red card, it's also a complicating factor. They really could have used him against Atlanta. So the team's going to have some challenges. Of course, the goalkeeper situation still a little bit up in the air, but the new Felipe was on the bench and maybe ready to give some minutes if need be. But yeah, it's at Atlanta on Wednesday. Atlanta has not been playing well. But I feel like that's a trap game there because if FC Dallas has a heavy rotation, that this could be a game that Atlanta really could have some success against a weakened FC Dallas team. But FC Dallas has had a little bit of success against Atlanta in Atlanta, and then finally back home on Sunday. So an extra day there rather than the Wednesday to Saturday to kind of rest up against Orlando, welcoming Oscar Pereira for the first time back to Frisco, but this time on the opponent's bench. It'll be an interesting match to watch. So what are you worried about, or what are you thinking about for these matches, Jose?
Well, I believe it or not, of the two matches, the one that worries me the most is Orlando, and Atlanta has just been a hot mess. So if you go to Atlanta, I mean, if you get a point on the road in MLS, that's a great result. And I think that that's possible against Atlanta. I think 3 points is possible against Atlanta, but even if they don't get a win, if they can get out of Atlanta with a draw on the road, that's a great result. My problem is I'm more worried about Orlando because Pareja has always been great at grinding out draws or getting 3 points out of nowhere, and he knows, he knows the players he's up against. So the scouting report he's going to have on some of the players he's up against, he may know them better than Lucci. So I'm worried about that match because while a point on the road is a good result, you don't want Orlando coming into Dallas and walking out with a point. Then that's a horrible result for Dallas. Mm-hmm. So if we get 4 points out of those two matches, I'd be very happy. I'm a fan. I want 6 points, and I think 6 points are doable. But I think 4 points is realistic, and any less than that would be a huge disappointment.
I'm with you. I think 4 points should be the minimum bar. I think your reading is spot on. I mean, I think Atlanta is a potential trap game just because they're due for a game where they sort of put things together. But their coaching situation is not is a mess. It's still an interim coach, I think, right? Like it's not final, and so they've lost. Yeah. They've sold their talent. It's the team.
That team hasn't gelled. They sold their talent, and now they're trying to figure out their identity really in their playing style. But that's a team that they're talented. So they're a team that at any point could turn it on, and that's what you're waiting for. And also, we're not going to have Acosta, we're not going to have Santos, so that's a concern because Santos has been a rock. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did struggle against Colorado, but I knocked it down to fatigue. He looked like he needed a rest, a game to rest. And honestly, had he not gotten the yellow, he'd probably be demanding to start against Atlanta. So they probably did us a favor there because now he has to rest whether he wants to or not.
Mm-hmm.
There's some players that are like that. That are, by the way, Cannon was one of his things. Is hey. Take a rest day. Oh no, I'm good to go. I'll play. There's guys that simply want to play every match, and they're not concerned about fatigue. They want to help. They feel they help the team more, even fatigued than not playing. So I think Santos is one of those guys.
Well, we could see. As Lucci did last season at Atlanta, which was a sort of a 5-3-2, and it could be that we're either gonna use Ricarte off the bench again, give him a little more rest, or because we don't know. I mean, if there's something else going on there, but and then just have Cervania and Testament kind of try to hold things down with Bresson getting a start. Possible, booting those balls up to Barrios. It's worked before, but I think with the tweaks, with the way Atlanta's been playing, I think you should go with a little more positive of a game plan. So it'll be really interesting to see what Lucci does against Atlanta, how he reads them and their situation, and just how he tweaks his team.
I think everyone wants to see him stick with a four-man back line. I mean, that team just seems more comfortable there. The only real concern is going to be with Santos having to sit this match out. Usually he's a single pivot. There's no way that either Cervania or Tessman can replicate what he does by themselves. So very likely Lucci's going to have two of them lying deep. And I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with Cervenia and Tessman both lying deep, and then having Ricarte, further up high.
Well, what about Cerrillo? Do you think my question was like, because he got a red card, does that apply to MLS? And I don't know.
I don't know. I would think it. I think it would.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but in all honesty, coming off a red, I wouldn't really want to reward him with a start for Dallas. In all honesty, if I'm a coach, I'm be like, hey, you could play against Atlanta, and we do need you, but you need to sit out. Even if he was allowed to. I mean, I wouldn't reward him with a start. So no, I think, mind you, Ricarte is pretty good defensively too. So I mean, it'd be very interesting to see what he does with that midfield, and I kind of feel he's going to rotate them a little.
I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, you think it's not out of the question that, I mean, I don't think this is ideal, but maybe you say, Bresson, I want you to fill in on that sort of a holding midfield spot for this game. I mean, I don't know. I doubt that, but I don't know.
I think if you're going to do that, I don't know. Give Hollingshead a shot.
Yeah,
why not?
He can play anywhere in the field. He can play. We might see Hollingshead in goal. I mean, I don't know.
No, I'm serious. I think we're fine with Tessman, Cervenia, and Ricarte. I'm just curious as to how he's going to set up. But I think this will be the starters. I don't think there's going to be any shenanigans or anything like that. And I mean, Roberts, it's another option that we're not considering. There's maybe he goes with Cervenia and Ricarte and Roberts. Who knows?
He brought Roberts went off early against NTSC, just subbed off, so he maybe has an option there. You're right. I think with the way Atlanta's been playing, I mean, keep in mind Atlanta lost to Nashville, I think 4-1 or something like that, 3-1 or something. They're Nashville's first multi-goal game. I think you've got to go for it at Atlanta. I think you've got to come out with an offensive game plan just to go for it. Yeah, and just go aggressive. And if you get 3 points, and then it really lets you take the Orlando match. Orlando has been playing really well. As Poppy can get those guys to play, it gives you some options. And so if you take the point, if you end up a draw at home and an emotional sort of game, you take it. You take it and you deal.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I think, like I said, I think we're seeing the team. It looks like the team has a higher gear yet, and it hasn't hit it. It's like kind of flashed it, but we haven't yet seen a full game where they were, dominant for the entire match. We haven't seen a full match out of this team. Mm-hmm. Against Sporting, we saw about 60 minutes of that. So it's getting there.
It's getting there,
but we haven't seen that one full dominant performance yet, and it's coming.
Well, good. Well, it's going to be a great week of FC Dallas action again, and so I hope you all are around and on board for it. And I think we're going to leave it there. We'll leave it there, and we will see you next Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Central. And of course, in the meanwhile, do check out bigdsoccer.com for some good articles and reading and opportunities to talk and break down these games. The games are coming fast and furious. It's exciting time to be an FC Dallas fan. All right, Jose, you're great. Enjoy your rest of your evening. All right. All right.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
All right.